All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to yet another fabulous Tuesday, which everybody, of course, has been super excited about because Tuesdays are the Acti game days. And today it is just Life and I, so it's going to be really, really
I'm going.
fun, I have a
I'm
feeling.
going to beat you, Ida. I'm going to beat you.
Finally, Life might have a competitor he can beat.
Not
And
even.
that's only because I will also be doing, the facilitation and also doing the host view and so on. You'll get a few extra jump ropes
Exactly.
to help you along here.
Hey, Ida, I saw your practice round. I saw that I was almost on the side of you, but almost only. You had 69. I had 62, I think. So I still have seven more to go.
Yeah, and I think the important thing here is that we might be close to each other, but the numbers still very clearly state the fact that I got more points than you.
Exactly. And there is only one winner,
And there's only one winner.
but
I
there are
like
two learners.
two learners. No loser.
No loser. No loser.
All right, we're getting way ahead of ourselves here live.
Yeah.
So for the next 5 minutes, for the next 5 minutes, if you would like, you can just in your comments maybe make a quick check-in, say who you are, where you're from, how's the weather, what are you eating, or you're having a nice cup of coffee, and just so we know that you're there and having a good time. All right, so live. Today we are actually looking into the bestseller game. And that's not a weird title. It's not that bestseller means something. It's actually a game created by the company Bestseller, right?
It is, yeah, that's what it means. They really liked the game, but they wanted it to be a little closer to the IT department. So they asked Anas if he could actually alter it a little bit. I think it's 2 years back,
Mhm.
and they also wanted it to be closer to IT and closer to themes that they have been struggling with or they had on the agenda at that time. So, but awesome, awesome bunch of people to collaborate with. So.
And do you remember why they made this game? And when I say that, it's not so much why chose the topic, but why did they choose to make a game?
I think because they have been playing other active games prior to the event that they had in IT, and for that reason they wanted to add that element into it. And it was quite a huge amount of people. I think it was it they developed it for a group of, I can't remember, 80, 100 people in
Wow,
the
okay.
IT department in Aarhus that should play it. So they just wanted to have the playful experience with the floorboard and everybody locking in, and so that was their aim. They didn't want this more tiring PowerPoint situation, classical learning space. So
Mm.
that's the reason for them wanting that.
All right, and it's a really, really used game ever since then, right? It's one of the games that are really getting some traction on the platform.
Yeah, I think maybe also because it's Bestseller who was part of changing it and was specifically for them and so on. It's a great client to have. I don't know if anybody knows who Bestseller is, but they're the biggest retailer in the world on clothes. I think they also
Yeah,
are they not owning Zalando? I think they are. And
yeah, I think they do.
is it in the top? I can't remember, top 100 richest people in the world, and he's a huge Danish. The owner is like um, a tower in the business world in Denmark. So
Mm.
being active and working with Bestseller is a thing we are proud about, of course, as we are with many of our clients and partners, of
All
course.
of our clients.
All of our clients, yeah, exactly.
All right. So I am trying to get us back on track here. So as I mentioned, it is just going to be me and Live today working with the bestseller game, and it's going to be really fun, I think. We're going to dig in a few different directions than normal now that we don't have an expert to whose mind we would like to pick. So we get to focus on some of the other areas today, and that's going to be really fun too. And Live, you are the CEO of Acti, and I don't know if you would like to add a few words about yourself, or if
I
that's
uh,
enough.
I would love to add a few words about myself, but primarily I'm working with sales and development, and I'm also the founder of Acti. I've been working with games since 2009 in the corporate space, and I am really enjoying the field of gaming and organizational development. It's where I spent my entire life. I've been I'm kind of thinking I've been thinking about it in for the last month or something. I don't really think I've had like a long period with a regular job. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life, so but it took away all of the other projects when I entered into the world of games. I really loved that way of getting deep understanding of organizational changes and organizational development life in generally speaking. So, and that led me into learning. Actually, I also have a master in adult learning and skill design in corporates, and I have a bachelor's in organizational development. So that's my world: organizational development and learning is my world.
And you
Thank you
are
for
saying
asking,
that I
Ida.
have a chance in this game.
You do actually. Uh, I could see I'm not even I was on 62, you were on 69, but let's see, I'm going to try to improve. And we know that Dipti was his high score. She did 101 points in this game. Ooh,
Yeah, so our colleague actually broke the record. That's pretty crazy. But she
she,
did not want to join today, which is sad.
yeah, it's sad. She blew us off the board today.
Apparently, kids are more important than us.
We do not understand that.
We don't get it.
No, not the
All
joke.
right.
You don't
But
have
enough
any yet.
about
So
us.
yeah, enough about. Are you sure? Yeah.
For now, life, for now. We'll get back
Okay.
to it.
Yes. Good.
All right. So the agenda of today is that we're going to talk a little bit about what Axie is, if anyone out there should have missed it prior in our prior events or online. Then we are going to play the game and talk about it, and then you will be able to play the same game in the same session, so we get to follow each other's choices, and that is sort of the whole magic around Acti, is that we're able to discuss from which choices we've made. And then after that, we're going to open up for some questions if there's any of that. And then that should be the hour. So sit back and relax for the next 5, 7 minutes. We're going to talk a little bit, and then you guys are going to get to play as well. All right. But first of all, we have a tradition of bringing up I like to call it a cloud slide, because I always am reminded of clouds, but it's actually not clouds. It's the world. It's the globe. It's the opposite of a cloud, I guess. But Leif, this is your favorite slide.
It
We use it
really
every
is.
time. Would you like to do the honors?
Yeah, I think we call it the bragging slide. It's basically for people who don't know who we are, but we've been here for 15 years and we've been doing games and simulations since 2010, and we've been doing it online. So we have a huge amount of data as well. We also tend to go into the wording of simulations, and I think that it's basically the same thing. What we do is that we engage in workshops, we engage in learning activity, we do learning activities, and we make them more fun by using games and simulations. But we never do it without any theoretic framework within them. And when I say that we do it, it's not only us, because the 150 games are partially from us, and some is from our partners who is also now building games. And actually 400 times per year there is a copy being made, a copy of one of the games, and they are then being changed into something specifically for the client, similar to the bestseller game that we are playing today. So there's a huge amount of games being built. And while we're speaking about that, it might also be interesting for people who's joining us to know that we are now testing an AI function on how to create games. So prompting, getting a game similar to what we have here. So, and it's a that will make game development so easy, and it will make the number increase significantly, because it's going to be much easier to develop a game. So, and also, yeah, exactly. I
Very, we
think so too.
deserve that. It's going to be
Yeah,
so great.
yeah, development department has really been fighting for this, and even the theories can be embedded by AI. So basically, you choose a theme. We have this problem in our organization. We would like to use this specific chain theory, and out comes a game that you can actually directly play. And the people who is actually using our games out in the real world is the 2,500 certified users who's playing with people around the world. And the cloud that or the landscape that you see behind the world, which is marked a little bit blue, is where people are playing in the last month at Acti. So we have people from all over the world playing. And maybe I should actually, I think this picture is getting old. We should probably update it. I'll make a new one until next time. So, but I think
You have
it's
that to
only
look
because
forward
it
to.
has become more blue. So,
Mm. The
so
bragging
that's
side,
nice.
of course, has to be up to bragging standards.
Yeah, exactly. We have to have that in the code of conduct too.
All
So
right.
great.
So Acti games, as Live mentioned, that of course we have a lot of theories, we have a lot of layers, we have a lot of people playing them for different customized needs, and basically these are our pains. These are the issues we are addressing in our games, and we have multiple platforms in which we are addressing them. So, for example, today we are playing a cycle game, which is the one we use primarily for change management, and we will explain why that is when we get to the game board. But we also have two additional game boards that we are using quite often. But anyway, we have these panes that are kind of the center of creating a game. And normally I would ask, what is your favorite pane? Because I think it's such a great question because it's a pain. But Live, actually, you've been working with this. What did you say, for 20 years now?
Yeah,
What is your
long
favorite
time.
pain? I mean, you are even a leader. You are running a company, but you are also creating games. So your pain must be a little bit different, I guess.
Yeah, but I have one favorite topic, which is the ESG area and green changes. Is my favorite topic, and we've been as a company, and you know that, Ida, because you've also been interested in the subject of changing the world for the better, and that has been a pain point for me for many years. And I'm actually a little bit surprised by how little the world has come to the fact of using games to play that. Or maybe it's not going to be a training issue out there. It's more going to be a thing we do in amongst ourselves. But we have been, I don't know how many do we have 15 games on green changes within corporates?
I think
And
that's a pretty good number, yeah.
yeah, I think 15. And we have also been involved, or we are involved with the Roskilde University. And last week we had Caroline Kur from Roskilde, who is a researcher on that project, playing with us. And that's like the topic that I like the most. And I'm super curious about where it's going to land in learning and development in the next 10 years. But that is for sure my pain point. And if I had to describe it in a practical sense, I think I would describe it with, okay, so what happens to an organization when you are not supposed to drive to work anymore, or when you're supposed to be in offices which are more dark? You're not supposed to have meat in the kitchen. What happens to an organization when that is going to be the reality, or we those type of issues? I haven't seen them play out, but I foresee that we are going to see them play out, and I hope they will be played out in the next, I don't know, 5 years. That's what
Mm.
interests me. That's my heart.
Yeah,
So
thank you, Life. And it perfectly exemplifies how that you love the pain of the green agenda, but at the
yes,
same time, you cannot address any of the pains within the green agenda without work culture and change management and leadership and so on. So these pains, yes, you can separate them and talk about them, but in real life as well as in the Acti games, these are so intertwined that you need to kind of keep all of them in mind. You cannot just only think about the green agenda.
that's a
So you guys are
perfect
gonna,
perfect
sorry,
point. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm just saying, Ida, it's a perfect combination, because yes, you're so truly right that you can't separate green agenda changes within organizational life, or maybe not even in households, without bundle them with what you mentioned there: culture, change management, leadership development, because it's also a knowledge thing. What is the
mm,
right choice to make here? So there's a lot of things within that agenda, which is interesting.
exactly.
So
And if this is something that you think you would love to listen to more about, then you should definitely check out last week's event with Caroline from RUK. She was really inspiring to listen to.
yeah,
All right, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. So quickly, I would like to draw attention to the fact that there are different learning spaces available within the Acti universe. So there is the all physical learning space, the all digital, and then the favorite of most, I guess, is the hybrid. So using both the physical floorboard, you can sort of see it here behind me, half of one at least, but also using the online game boards and tools in order to kind of get both you get the physical you get the physical joy of being with each other, working off each other, and discussing together, but you also get the data and the immersion of working online. Um, would you like to talk a little bit about life? I think it's quite interesting, this hybrid version that most of our clients are doing, because you kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah. I think what our certified partners are enjoying the most is the situation which you have in the lower right corner, where you see the consultants standing in a group. This is out of the Middle East, and the same above, where you have people organized in teams. So one team is playing against another team. They are all logged in because they then get the profile data out of the session. So that means each person who's playing Acti is getting a sense of how did I actually choose to distribute my options, on what type of theory and what element in that theory did I uh, kind of prefer to use to solve issues in the game. And then the facilitator makes stops and discuss with the group within the chapters, and that's the most used way of playing. But the facilitator really don't need the physical material. It's only to change between sitting at the PC and getting people to move around in the room. They can actually choose to use in the middle row on top, which is what we call the host view. We are also going to look into it later today. So they
Yeah.
can facilitate a process without any physical material, and they can also do that online. But we also see that some of our clients are start using the games because they can be fully 100% video games and without any text. So you can also do games that are off asynchronically learning, which means that people play by themselves without being in contact with anyone. But you can basically scale up between play by yourself, play together, see a little bit of each other, or play very much together in the team challenge, and have to agree in teams before you implement. So that's what we are trying to illustrate in the learning space. So.
Mhm. Thank you, Life. Okay, so the game we are going to play today, finally, it took us a while to get here, but now we're here, and you guys are going to get the link anytime now, any second now. Just let me have 2 more minutes and you can go. So, the game you are playing today is, as mentioned, this bestseller IT game, which is about you are basically in a position of a manager and you need to help this bigger IT implementation into the bestseller organization. And you have two goals in this game. The one of them being that you need to be able to create better customer service. So some of the IT you are implementing is going to help that. But you also need to create a more efficient flow for employees to work in. So on one hand, you have a need for a better IT system because your customer service is not living up to what it should be. But on the other hand, you also have all of these IT processes that are seemingly unstructured and inefficient. So you also need to kind of somehow pull the threads out of that knot and make it align with the new IT strategy. So two things to keep in mind. Now, there are actually 5 theory layers in this game. And normally we don't dig very much into the theories because there's so many other cool things to talk about when we have guests with us. But I would love to actually to pick your brain a little bit, because the theory layers we have in here are the most used theories we have in our platform in general.
Yeah.
And actually, maybe you can help me decide what makes better sense, if it's better to discuss the theories after we have played a chapter, maybe.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, but then we will get back to it. But we have these 5 theories, and we have Rick Mauer's resistance, we have Leavitt's diamond model, 6 leadership styles, John Cotter's 8-step model, and we have this management leadership theory, if we can call it that. Okay, but it will hopefully all make more sense once we've played a few chapters in the game. So, if you would please, in a minute, a link will be sent out in the comment track. And Live, you can just log in. You should already have the link so that you are ready. A link will be sent out in a minute to the comment track, and that should enable you guys to just jump straight into the game. I'm going to exemplify in a second. The only thing is that if you are on a mobile phone, the links are sometimes unclickable. So then you must just go to acti.com, and then up in the right corner, there's a place you click. And it is going to explain very thoroughly how to in the comment section. So just wait for that to come out and then let us know if you have any questions. If you are on the computer, what is going to happen is you click the link, and this is where you arrive. And what you do is very simple. You add a guest name. I'm gonna write test Ida. And then you choose a position. This is not super valid for our game session today, but it is a really cool feature we have that we can discuss a little bit later. Then you click join the session and you arrive to the game page. If you click on the orange button, you're off. And there will be an option of you to get a tutorial of the platform, but you can also just listen to me and I will explain. So you get some background information first. It's actually a video. So if you don't enjoy reading like me, you can just sit back and watch it. And then you get the case introduction, which is a little long, but I'm going to break it down for you, don't worry. So this is the game board that we are working on. We call it the cycle of change. The goal is to get your change, which is represented by this little blue arrow, all the way around the cycle. Once that has happened, you have completed your change. Now, all of these little dots you're seeing are your stakeholders, and you can click in on them as I just did. Now, they are showing whether or not they are following the change, if they're resisting the change, or if they are doing something completely different, basically. Your goal is, of course, to keep your stakeholders as close to the change as possible. And you continue by clicking the green buttons, and you make choices by opening up here and clicking choose. Now, in the first one, you must make 2 choices, and in the next 2 chapters, you get some hours, which means you can take X amount of choices. But we will get back to that as well. I'm hoping it will make sense once you get in. All right, Leif, am I forgetting to mention anything important about the game
Not at
board?
all. Not at
Great.
all.
Okay, well, it looks like the link has been sent, so you guys should be ready to go. Leif, you are ready to go as well?
I already did it, and I was really thinking about what I did, and I made a terrible option. I even did it worse than last time. I did -3 points. I had people leaving me. What did I do wrong?
Wow, -3. Okay, I have not seen that before.
I have not seen that either.
Okay, so for those of you who haven't quite made it into the game yet, so the first chapter is basically about the initial phase of this change. So you are a manager, you have a team, and you need to kind of communicate that this change is going to happen. And it's not a small change. It's going to affect their everyday workflow. So it's pretty critical that you kind of get off on the right leg here, or how you want to say it. So, like, it seems like you really did not choose the
I
right first message.
I did not choose the first 2 messages. I chose front runners and rumors and concerns because I was thinking, okay, we need to get someone who can run ahead of people, and I didn't actually read into it, but I was kind of thinking we need someone who is capable of understanding and like creating the sense of urgency out of driving coalition out of John Cotter. So, and I was also thinking about, okay, there's probably going to be some rumors and concerns which we all hear about when there is these type of changes within organizations, but apparently they were not good choices, because I must have had people moving out in resistance or backwards, and I can't remember. Maybe I should go and replay the movement to see what happened. Yeah, I lost people for moving out out in resistant level.
Okay, and for those of you who are not quite so used to the Acti board, so this is your change life. This is this little green arrow. That's your change.
Yeah.
And these are your people. And what you're saying is that these guys
Mm.
in the outer rings are not quite happy with what's happening.
They are not at all happy with what happened. If you take the little gray one there in the front, that
E.
one, if you click on that, yeah, you can see Eric is
Eric.
saying, he is saying that there's too much talk about this. Give us the big picture. That the ISM strategy, which is the new strategy that Bestseller wanted to implement, um, but he needs more information. He needs to know a little more on what is happening, and he's actually on resistance level 2. That means that he has he has a remote emotional reactions to what is being implemented. But that was not a good thing. He went out, and I also lost. Frederik also went out, but he's not
Yeah.
negative. He's still positive, but he also needs to know, why did we actually choose this system? So what was the idea here of choosing this system? So
So what you're
yeah,
saying, Life, is that the resistance levels, even though that they are reacting and resisting, is not necessarily like, of course, we saw Eric was not particularly happy about the situation, but Frederik was okay with it.
yeah,
But he is still resisting, and they are in the same resistance level, but one of them is happy and one of them is not so happy.
yeah.
How is that to be interpreted?
Yeah, that's because one thing is the game, and the other thing is what Rick Mauer says, who's invented the resistant levels. And what he's actually saying is that you are more likely to get response on level 1 than you are to get responses on level 2 and 3, because we don't want to tell you that we actually feel unsafe, that I'm actually insecure about my work, or I don't trust in the strategy, or we are likely to ask a technical question back. So what is going to happen with this IT strategy? It sounds fun. What will happen? But we might actually emotional feel, yeah, I don't believe in you, and it's not the right way. But we will never say that in an organizational life, because it can be career limiting to actually be bluntly saying what you think is going to happen to the organization. So to have that information, we actually need to go and speak clearly to people and have more closer conversations than just sending out a survey. And Rick Mauer even says that there is only one way to get that information, and that is speaking to people. You can't get it any other way, because people will not tell you in any other way. So
And must
that's
that
what.
then be one-to-one, or could you do smaller groups?
Yeah, he suggests, Rick Mauer suggests in his theory that if you are on resistant level 3, it's probably one-to-one, and it might not even
Mhm.
be you as a manager who represents the change. You might want to send a colleague who doesn't have the same at stake as your colleague has, so, or as you have. So you might
Mm.
think about, what if you know what level they are on, you might need to send someone else to get that right information, because they might react differently to you who's driving the change, if that's the
Mm.
case. So
All right. Well, it looks like at least you're.
so don't do the front runners, and don't do the that was not good options.
I was trying to kind of conclude here that
Yeah,
so basically what you're saying, or what we have just discussed here, right, is that in that our stakeholders, Eric and Frederik, they would like more information as a
yes,
whole,
yes,
instead of just maybe a few individuals that are getting told what should happen and then leading.
yeah.
And then, of course, also addressing rumors and concerns, which I would find very valid. But
Hmm.
again, we've actually not communicated anything about the change in these two choices, which
Oh,
results in a -3, apparently.
yeah, which resulted in a -3. That was not. It might have been different if we took two other options. I can't figure out which one of those two were actually the worst
The worst one?
option, because we had to make two.
Mm.
So, but let me spend my first hours, and maybe you can
Yeah,
explain.
absolutely. If you use your 100 hours, I will explain. So
Yep.
the next chapter now is that you are a while into this implementation, or you have at least communicated a lot about this is going to happen, this change is happening, the strategies are set, the plans are all lined out, and so on. But now it seems that a lot of your team are not really taking the change as seriously as they should. Maybe not thinking it's going to impact them very much, that their workflow will not be very effective, that they can probably just do it as they always used to do it. Um, And of course, you know, because you're working as the leader of this change, you know that this is going to affect everything. It's going to probably change every single one of their workflow processes during a day. So you need to somehow get your employees or your team on board here to make them realize that this is happening, and it's also going to affect them personally in the way that they do their work. So they kind of need to be on board the plan. They need to pay attention and take it seriously. And that is really your task. You are given 100 hours, and hopefully it will make sense when you're making your choices how you use those hours. You're giving these resources of 100 hours to kind of create a sense of urgency in your team. And that is basically what the whole next chapter is about. And of course, you have multiple employees in your team. They are all going to react differently to different choices. So I'm not saying it's an easy thing, but keeping track of your stakeholders and whereabouts they are emotionally is really kind of the key to figuring out your choices. All right, Life, it looks like you are making
I
some
did really,
choices.
I did really bad.
Okay. All right. Well,
Is
you're
that
not in minus points anymore.
is that where I'm? Can you, yeah, put me there?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's where I'm. So
here you
there
are.
must, there I am, but it was not a good thing. You see, I have everybody online there,
Yeah,
but I only got 20 points.
yeah. And I
So
think,
somehow I did something wrong. I'm quite sure. I was kind of thinking sense of urgency is all about creating the if you can go back and see my first choice in
mhm,
chapter 2, which were like I was thinking that also made a great impact. I got did I get 4 points or 3 points or something for that? 8 points I got for that. Um, so now or never is like the way that John Cotter explains how to create a sense of urgency. You actually, the best way is collect some data. So it's not something that you say, so it's trustworthy what you come from. So you have something to back up your idea on why are we going to change and what is going to
mm,
happen to us in the future. So this is we have to go through this or else we will burn. And the burning platform idea comes literally out of a rigging platform that is burning, and you have to be willing enough to jump off and get into the cold water and start swimming. So
mm,
and he John Cotter has some radical ideas. He even suggests in some of his books that you should in some cases create a crisis. If you have like an organization who thinks everything is very cool, we don't need to change, because that's actually dangerous to your business if people starts getting unlistening to clients or not listening to what they're giving you a feedback and so on. And then he
mm,
says, you in the way of creating that is actually inviting clients in to talk about the problems that they see, and that makes people think, okay, that really means that we need to move on. And that's what I took of that choice, and it was also effectful. But from then on, I must have done a lot of bad things because I got I got no other good points for that. I can't remember number two, but it was not a good option.
here we go. The dirty dozen.
Yeah, that a good option? Yeah, okay. I actually got. Did I get how many points did I get for that? I have 16 points at this stage, so maybe also an okay option to make, because I was thinking Dirty Dozen is to create a driving coalition. It sounded like a driving coalition to me. So
Mm,
that makes sense. You create the sense of urgency, then you create a group of people who's going to be your front runners in the organization, who's going to help in terms of moving this project forward. And Cotter also talks about in his newer research that you should make sure that it's not only the official channels that actually gets real influence on the change. You should also be able to get you should also be able to take more the coffee clubs and people who has power in while you have lunch and so on. They should also be involved
mm.
in the power play and have real influence on the project, because they influence the whole group. So I was thinking Dirty Dozen must be a right option. And then from there, I took some really bad choices. Let me just go back and see, what did I do. Uh, then I was thinking in the same kind of concept. I was thinking I'm going with the where are we going option. Um, but I think that was too early. Looking back, it was probably a little bit too early to invest in such an initiative to try and move the whole organization. I mean, we're still having people in the first bit of the change where they're kind of in the dark, and they probably need. I should probably have chosen something which is more directive and just making some decisions on behalf of the group, because who can make decisions when you are in the dark, out of Rigmauer, or where you don't have the fully overview as an employee? You probably
Mm.
just know that you should be moving on, and I should more probably have thought about getting rid of some of the obstacles that the organization might meet. But yeah, I was not clever enough there.
So, like, this whole chapter is about creating a sense of urgency. And now you are yourself also in charge of people and you have to implement changes. And I'm actually stood here wondering a little bit, but why is it so important to create this sense of urgency? Because surely they will realize once this change rolls out that they should probably have prepared for this. So, why is it so important to get them on the boat now? Because eventually they will have to get on the boat, right?
Yeah, but I think it's an optimization philosophy from John Cotter. He argues that the biggest issues organizations have is not to create the sense of urgency. It's actually the most overlooked phase in the change, because if you don't create the sense of urgency, you're going to be struggling with getting people to follow you, and you might end up in a situation where people is just thinking, oh, okay, now they want us to do this. I'm just going to pretend I understand what they're saying. I'm going to pretend that I'm following, and then it will eventually go away in the future. And then what happens is that you get a lot of what is called organizational lag. That means that people are not doing the right thing. They're not doing it at the right time, and they don't have that sense of this is really important to us as a company. So, and
Mm,
if you don't, if you as a colleague don't have that sense, this is really important. You're just going to see it as a problem, or as something that is annoying to you, because then you have to do things differently. You now have to follow a new strategy. You don't really understand it. You don't really care about it. So why am I doing this? And
mm,
we can even by explaining it, we all have a picture in our heads about the organization that goes slow. Suddenly you start talking to your colleagues about, oh, this is also the stupid new ITSM strategy. Why should we have that? And then suddenly you don't have people with you. But if you create the sense of urgency, people will understand why we are doing this. Why is there an urgency to implement the new strategy? What is the idea of it? What is it supposed to create of value for me as an employee? And how am I going to see it plays out? How can I contribute to it? And it have to be so clearly done and stated that it's really, really clear to everyone in the organization why we are doing this. It's almost like John Cotter says that that's also why it's called the burning platform, is that it have to be something you're willing almost to do anything to achieve. So we have to change. We have to make those moves. So that's what he's arguing, and he says that if you don't have sense of urgency, I think newer change theories today are not seeing it in that process-wise way where you have to do step 1, 2, 3. It's much more dynamically in organizations today than when
mm,
he created this theory. But what he argues is that sometimes you actually have to roll back and then start all over again to actually get that sense of urgency feeling within your team. So.
mm,
And I also think in a bigger organizations, it's not only a matter of having a sense of urgency like on the top level. We all know the CEO speech, and everybody leaves and thinks about something else because you have to deliver something. But it's actually a thing that your middle managers should understand, because they're the one who is going out in the departments of the company and have to inherit that sense of urgency and maybe translate that into something relevant for the team that they're working with. And that might not be at the same time. So you might have a sense of urgency. It's very important in the strategy department, but when it hits IT, there might be 6 months later. but someone have to translate that sense of urgency into something important for that IT department 6 months later. So, and it's the same kind of idea that you have to have that, and you have to be communicating that sense of urgency in a very structured way. And one of them is bringing in people from outside,
Okay,
and
so you
then
would argue that this is actually the most crucial initial step in any change process is to create this sense of urgency.
yeah, create the understanding of why do we need to go through this hell, which I think people sometimes perceive changes as, because they are
Mm.
pushing our everyday work life, and sometimes you even get a bad atmosphere. People are getting annoyed and pushed, and we don't like being annoyed and pushed, of course.
Mm.
But if there is a sense of urgency, and if it's not just the manager, because it's so obviously easy to point to the manager and say, oh, it's also he's just or she's just an idiot and coming with these stupid things. But when it comes from something from outside, it takes the argument away from the manager or leader to something business orientated, and that creates a very strong sense of urgency. So that's that's his argument for why we should create this sense of urgency. That was a long answer to a short question. Sorry.
It was a good answer, though. Thank you, Leif. All right, but yes, you're right. Time is running, so maybe I can ask you to look into the third chapter, Leif.
Yeah, I will do
Perfect.
that.
Okay, so the third chapter and the final chapter, it's only a three-chapter game, making it actually a really, really nice game for an hour like this. I mean, of course, we could have probably spent 4 or 5 hours playing this if we had a facilitator doing some nice questions for us. Um, and maybe that's actually something that I would like to just make into a quick point is that, of course, playing these games is fun and it's enriching and so on. But it's actually the value of using Acti games really takes place in the discussions in between chapters. So, for example, me and Life asking, "Oh, but why did you take this choice? I chose to do this," and then actually sitting and discussing until we are kind of seeing eye to eye with, "Oh, I see why you did that. You see why I did this." So now, with even more informed foundation, we both agree we should do this in the future. So that was a very brief explanation of how to facilitate the questions. But the next and final chapter of this game today is is a while after the IT system has been fully integrated in the processes, and there is then like this data check in the company to kind of see the results of. I think Life took a bad choice.
Ah,
Uh, anyway, there's a data check to see if there's actually any better results from after using the or after implementing the IT change. And the data is actually showing that there is no effect in it, so that people are either not following the new strategy and the standards that have put in play, or are just kind of ignoring certain parts, or still following their own old workflows the way they've always done it. And on top of that, two of the biggest clients have actually gone to your CEO and said that they are super impatient and not quite satisfied with what's happening. And that's sort of what you have to kind of relate to. What do you then do? Super easy, right, Life?
I know it wasn't, and I should probably have listened a little more to what you were talking about to make better options. I didn't do well, and I even did worse than my test round. I'm on 49 points in the end. And I think I must have made some really bad choices. Quite
All
interesting.
right.
But I also do, if I should look at this picture, when I see this picture, I'm also thinking, okay, I do have people in two people in the outer resistant level. I have two people in the
Yeah.
middle, and I have one on level one, and then I have people behind the boat. It's to me, it's of course not great not to be further. I should have pushed the project further ahead. So, but that could probably eventually have caused some people to jump out. But I guess this project probably called for that, for more pushing, and I think I didn't push too much, maybe.
And Life, that's actually a perfect way of starting this next point I would love to address, which is this management versus leadership model that we kind of have pulled over this game. And I was wondering if you could somehow explain it in relation to your game board here. That okay, well, if you're managing, what happens to the boat, and what could that look like? But what could that also look like for the stakeholders, and vice versa with leadership, if that made
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, that makes perfect sense. But maybe we could actually look at it from the profile section because that will make it
Absolutely.
easy. Because then we take the discussion to. So if we
That's what.
let's take me there and let's just start there.
Yeah.
As you can see here, I've made a little above 50% reduced resistance. That means that I have not created more resistance than reduced. But I think if you push the project forward, if you focus more on the managerial tools that you have in your toolbox, you will create more resistance naturally because you're pushing more and you're pushing more uh, for for either people to do things differently or for the business to achieve better or to implement something. So pushing the project is always creating more resistance. Or I cannot think of any games where that is not the case. So that's one way of looking at it. So pushing the project will create more resistance, and pushing the project also means that you take more managerial choices than leadership choices.
And
But don't
maybe
we have
it's worth to mention that the managerial choices is basically what moves the boat, and the leadership is basically what moves your stakeholders.
yeah.
That is at least my rule of thumb trying
Yes.
to learn. Great.
But I think we can actually look at it because I think it's in the bottom. It's part of this game. So you can see what I did is that's also why I have people close to the boat is that I did a lot of leadership choices
Mm.
because I was thinking, sense of urgency. And I was thinking, okay, I'll just stick to, I know his theory quite well, even though it's an older and not like up to date in terms of what people are using. I was kind of thinking, I'm going for his options. They're quite understandable and easy to implement and take to us. And that results in a lot of leadership choices and less management choices.
Mm.
So that means that's also why I didn't push the boat to the end. I would probably have gotten more points for pushing the boat further on. So that makes a lot of
And
sense.
and
Can
what
we
would you
see
say is like the golden rule here? Is it to do 50-50, or what is the aim of the game?
the golden rule is always to think about, okay, I'm pushing, then I have to do some leadership choices. I'm pushing, then I have to do some leadership choices, or I have to. To me, I'm always thinking of it a little bit like Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence or six leadership styles. You
Mm.
have to know that you are jeopardizing the organizational climate by pushing people. You are achieving a short-term result. Maybe you're also changing the culture a little bit, but you have to know that once you push the organization, you have to go back and do something more positively for the organizational climate. So that's my idea. But I was thinking, could we just see what the CXOs does in the same theory on
Yeah,
the
of
right
course.
side there?
So this is what I was explaining when you can in the login flow that you can actually,
It's
what
in
did
the
you say,
top.
executives?
Yeah,
Oh,
that one. Yeah.
you can actually filter the positions of the active users playing the games, and then you can compare what how did they focus their theory choices, which is pretty cool. So, Life, I would call you an executive. Would you call yourself an executive?
No, not really, because the
No?
executives have you can see the executives is the in the ring, and they have at least 30% more managerial choices than me. Actually, less more managerial, more management choices than leadership
And
choices.
leadership, yeah.
And you can see I have made a lot more leadership choices than management choices. So I think if I should learn from other CXOs, I should think about making more management choices and trying to push the project further on.
Mm.
That will me. But I did this study a little while back on the CRM game, which is also an IT implementation case, where I looked at how employees and how executives are making choices differently. And the interesting outcome of that piece of research I did was that executives tend to drive changes with vision, with pace, and with vision pace. I can't remember this third one, but employees like to have it with where where there are more affiliative styles, there are more empathic approaches to changes, and more knowledge about what is going to happen to us. So that's the leadership level approach to it.
Mm.
You probably have to update to get the executives in on this one also, I think.
Oh,
Or maybe you
how
could
do you
just check
mean?
it. Or maybe you could just check employee and then you can see.
Oh,
Oh,
oh, it's not quite right. Let's try again. Profile. Life. There we go. And
yeah,
then employees. And you
yeah.
want the Goldman theory layer.
No, no, I would like to have the other one, we looked at
Management.
management. Yeah. Okay, so there is no employee data. I don't know why there is no employee data there. I don't know why. I have to check. It
Something
doesn't come
to
up
think about
apparently.
later.
Yeah, maybe. Can be because it's not loaded correct in your browser or something.
It
But can
could
you
be.
try and take your own profile? Maybe we can have a
Yeah,
look
of
there.
course. Oh, here we go. So this is the one I
Oh,
played
you
earlier. So I'm
you you
the
are
center.
much more. Yeah, yeah. You are much more executive kind of play also, Ida.
It's just in my bones.
Yeah, it is. And I'm also in my view, I'm looking from it from a player perspective. I can see that you are actually making more management choices than if you can also see the same profile for everybody who played the game
Mhm.
ever. So
So,
it
for
might be.
example, this is Dipti, who we just talked about
Oh
earlier,
yeah,
as in beating the top scorers ever in this game. And
exactly.
actually, it looks like she's almost spot on 50-50. I think it was like 53-47 or something when we looked at her profile.
Yeah. I think that probably the reason why there is no data is because there is no one who's ticked off that they are executive or employee. They probably ticked off project management or something
Mm,
else. And so that's why there's no data. But let's have a look at the management leadership. Let's see Dipsy, who's the high score. Let's see
yeah,
what her profile is on Goldman or any of the other ones there.
here we go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I'm the yellow one, and she's the
No,
purple one.
yeah, sorry. Yes, you're orange and Dipti is purple, we can call it. And
And
basically, it's showing that you're both using very pace-setting styles,
yeah,
and visionary styles and commanding styles
yeah.
are the three common denominators you guys have.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know
I'm
if you
more
can.
spread out. I'm more softy than her because I also did the democratic style and I also did the coaching style. And she's more monotone in her. She used the commanding and did compromise on democratic and coaching. So she was pushing more than me apparently in this project.
And what would you say when you're starting a project like this? Would you say that there are different phases where the different styles fit in better? Like, is there a rule of thumb in some way?
Yeah, there is this rule of thumb saying that if you're working out of Goldman, you should think that in the beginning of the change you should be more commanding, and then you should stop being commanding because then people are coming out of the dark. When things are blurry, you need someone. The idea is that you need someone to make decision, guide you through the dust, and then once you come out, people start looking at their own tasks. They start getting ideas. They become competent in driving on the new project and knowing what is a clever decision here, and then they quite fastly overtake someone who's pushing. But in the beginning, you can be commanding, and then you should stop using the commanding because it's jeopardizing the climate again. And you can do that in the beginning, but you can't do that while moving on, because then people are, of course, more knowledgeable about the work that they do and the job that they have. So managers should be aware of that. So in Goldman's six styles, there is only two: is the pace setting and the commanding. is the two styles that are jeopardizing the organizational climate, which is also six
Mm.
different areas. So once you have done that, you need to think about the other four, and you're supposed to use those six styles within the same week. Or leaders who does that are the high achievers within the organization. They reach their budget, they get the higher bonuses. So all of that is important. So if you want to become a high achiever leader, you should use 6 leadership styles per week. And it's a study that are made between 20,000 leaders around the world with Hay Group, which is now owned by Korn Ferry. So
Mm.
it's but they're done with the Goldman on top of his leadership 6 leadership styles. So
All right.
mhm.
Oh, that was a lot of information.
Yeah, too much. And
Like I just need to. I mean, we only
yeah,
have 5 minutes left, but
yeah,
I have one more question I would love to ask you live.
yeah.
But let's
Come
see if
on
we
with it.
can make it sharp, so we don't spend another hour. Because these are the most used theories, I would say, in our. Thank you, live. These are the most used theories in our platform in total, and I think that they work so beautifully together because they are each covering different really, really relevant elements of, for example, a change project. And I was wondering if you would want to set a few words on the dynamics of the combination of these theories and why they work so well together.
I think they work well together because they are classic theories. Many people know about them and they're easy to understand. And they come out of a world which is less complex than what the world looks like today. So they won't be able to cope with polarities, complexity, ambiguity, all of the things that we are today learning to live with in organizations. They actually come out of a situation where you could have a clean theory and you can say, this is how you're supposed to do it. You're going from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4, and then eventually your result will come. And that's an easy way, learning wise, it's an easy way to make people remember, to make people being able to draw out of their toolbox, newly learned toolbox. So when you play a game, you learn about John Cotter, and that makes it easy to take out John Cotter when you come back at work.
Mm.
And that's the beauty of these theories in a combination, is that they somehow support each other. The leadership styles support the idea of Kotter. The management and leadership supports because the more you can segment theories into 2 sections, the more we can remember from them. We might not remember what is beneath management or what is beneath leadership, but we know to distinguish, or we can distinct between what is a management choice, what is a
Mm.
leadership choice. And that means that that is an easy thing to go back and do when you get back to work. And that's what coming out of learning, I think we should be thinking about in the learning industry, is how can we make people take something from whatever we do, whatever interaction we do, and bring that back to work and do something differently. And
Mm.
these theories are simple, they're easy to use, they're easy to remember. Having said that, I also need to state that I also think that we cannot run from the fact that the world have become more complex, and you need to managers also need to be able to live in a world where problems are unsolvable and they have to live side by side. And the way that we try to do that in the games is that we don't have games where you can do the right thing. So in our games, you can make a choice. Some will react negatively, some will react positively, and that's a thing that we are trying to teach people also to live with. You cannot solve everything by doing some great theoretic choice. That world doesn't exist, and it doesn't exist in our games too.
Mm.
So we are more like trying to make people think, okay, if I do this choice, what will happen to this group and what will potentially happen to some other people? And how can I then take the next step? Because I have to compromise somewhere. And that ambiguity, I think, reflects the world uh, in a very beautiful way. But it's a compromise to the theory, because some of the theories are actually having this very set up road on how you should use them and how they should be understood, which I think is not compliant with how the world is moving today. So, but they are Yeah,
Sorry,
come
that
on,
was
let's
just
have it.
a
Yeah,
perfect
yeah,
summarization
good,
of what I was hoping you would say.
nice.
That it's so complicated, the world we live in. So trying to create something that's exact is basically impossible. But we are really trying, and we're getting damn close, I would say.
Yeah,
But we
nice.
have 7 seconds left, so we don't have time for any more. I'm so sorry, but it was a pleasure to be here again, and see you next week, guys. All right, bye.